But hello, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of the Spirit Speaker KC podcast. I am medium Jamie Collins, and tonight I'm super excited to have a friend, a guest, Randall Blackman, on the show. Before we get started with Randy, I'm going to read a little bit of his bio. So Randall Blackman is a professional tarot reader, a teacher, and metaphysical event coordinator, known for his intuitive insight and grounded, practical approach to the cards. From a young age, Randall felt a deep connection to intuition and spiritual awareness, which has evolved into a lifelong practice of reading and teaching tarot. Randy does all kinds of things, and in addition, he serves as the show coordinator for the Midwest Metaphysical Expo, where he brings together a diverse community of readers, healers, and vendors to create a dynamic event focused on growth, exploration, and connection. I love this line that you tag in there, Randy. Tarot tells the story, but we write the ending. I really love that. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I appreciate it.
Oh, I am so glad to be here. You know that I always enjoy my time with you, so anything for you.
Yeah, so I always like to start off a little bit. In all honesty, transparency to people, Randy and I have known each other for, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, and so we'll get into how we met. But I always am curious about how people got their start into this metaphysical arena, the spiritual arts. Let folks know a little bit about how you got into tarot. How do you pronounce it? People say it all different ways. How'd you get your start?
My start. So my first start, the first time I ever saw the cards, touched the cards, had them kind of speak to me, I was 6 years old. So I grew up here in Des Moines. My grandparents lived in Council Bluffs outside of Omaha. And we were visiting my grandparents for a weekend, and my grandmother was having one of her card parties and had all the ladies over to play cards. So all the guys left to go to the park to play, and I chose to stay back because all the food was in the kitchen. And I knew that if I behaved myself, that I would get first shot at the food before all the guys got back. So they were playing cards, and then there was like a knock at the door, and a woman came in, and my grandmother introduced her to the ladies, and she was a tarot reader from Omaha. And my grandmother had brought her over to kind of entertain the ladies and do a few readings. So she was starting to read, and she saw me standing in the kitchen door watching her, and she asked me to come stand by her. So I'm standing by her, and she's reading for my great aunt. And she said, my aunt said, I just want to know about my family. Tell me about my husband and my kids, and is everything going to be okay? And the woman said, laying the cards down, that everything looked fine. I can see you and your husband sitting on your front porch in your rocking chairs, and there's children playing out on the lawn, and everybody's around. And it's going to be just absolutely wonderful. Everything's going to work out fine for you. And I looked at the cards, and I looked at her, and I said, that's not true.
Oh
He's
my
going to be
God.
married 3 times. And of course, everybody laughs, and the lady says, oh, look who thinks he can read the cards. Within a year, her husband developed throat cancer and passed away. And over the course of her lifetime, she married and buried 3 husbands.
Oh
So
my
that
God.
was kind of the start for me. After that, it seems like things just kind of continue to roll. As I got older, more things would come to me. I would share some of those with my mom. She seemed to like it until I started telling her things about herself. Then it got a little testy. And at one point in time, she wanted to put a stop to it. So she pulled the ultimate Catholic card. And she's like, if you don't stop, you're going to have to go talk to the priest. And I didn't want to do that. So I
Right.
put it on hold for several years. When I got into my 20s, I decided to pursue that. I knew that tarot was my place to be. The cards were my tools. I absolutely comfortable with them. So I would go to the libraries and I would check out books, and I was self-taught on card meetings, and I learned spreads,
Right.
and developed from there. And then when I got a little bit older in life, started working metaphysical fairs, and that just took off from there.
Wow. Wow. Do you remember your first deck of tarot cards? Or when you got them? Like, do you remember, or do you even still have them?
I don't have them. I had to
Okay.
hide them. I bought them from, I'm sure you'll laugh at this, a Spencer's Gifts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was a deck that came out. It was a Rider Waite deck, but on the back of the cards were 007, because there had been a James Bond movie where one of the women in the thing had the gift and she used tarot cards. And so
Right.
that deck was on sale. And so I saved up from mowing lawns and I bought the deck, and I had to hide it. And I wish I still had it. I really do,
Yeah.
but no, it's
Yeah.
gone.
Okay. That would be pretty cool. So you were in your 20s. Did you at that time were you reading for friends? Did friends were you letting folks know that you kind of dabbled in tarot, or were you still kind of quiet about that?
In my 20s and early 30s, I was still pretty kind of quiet about it. So I had certain friends that knew, and those are the friends that I would read for and for their friends. But yeah, my family just was not supportive
Yeah.
of that,
Yeah.
and so I kept it pretty on the down low.
Okay. Okay. So you kind of the way you made it sound is kind of, I think in lots of things in life, that was just meant to be.
Yes,
You were introduced to these cards, you saw your aunt and all of this. It called to you, right? You just kind of felt drawn to it.
absolutely. Yeah, like it was supposed to be. It just always felt right.
Yeah, yeah. So, what do you think tarot can do for people? So, let's before I kind of want to get into minor and major arcana cards, but
Mhm.
first, what is it about the tarot that you love? You've been doing it for all these years, decades, and lots of decades and decades. No, I'm teasing. But
That wouldn't be a lie.
but what is it about the draw of tarot that just pulls you in? I'm always curious when people have these things. What do you enjoy about it or like about tarot?
The thing I like about being a reader is I get people into, I hope, a better place. So I have this theory that no matter what you do in the metaphysical world, whether it be tarot readings, angel card readings, angel communication, mediumship, Reiki, palmistry, reading bones, your job really is to help somebody heal, to get them into a healthier, happier place, to take them from point A to point B with them having more knowledge to make better decisions for themselves. A lot of people are afraid of the cards, and they'll say things like, well, what if I get a bad card? Okay, my byline is, and I don't remember where I found it years ago, and that is Tarot writes the story, tells the story, but you write the ending. So Tarot points out all the nuances about a situation. And to me, what people call bad cards or sometimes challenging cards, to me, I think are a gift,
Mhm.
because they are like warning signs.
Yeah.
So you're driving down a road and you see a sign that says falling rocks ahead. You've got two choices. You can drive through the falling rocks and take that chance that you could get hurt, or you can find another path and circumvent that situation. Same thing with tarot. When challenging cards come into play, Spirit is pointing things out for you to see and to recognize so that you can help mitigate some of the difficulty and some of the lessons that may be coming for you.
Right, right. And so you're not just reading the cards, you're using your intuition, you use spirit. You believe that you're getting guidance, advice, information from spirit.
Yes,
It's not all just what's on that card.
correct. Absolutely. So for me, when I teach tarot, it can be a little difficult because I read differently than how I teach. So when I'm starting with beginning students, I want them to look at the cards, learn the meanings of the cards, do a little bit of memorization. But I believe in a solid deck of tarot cards, the card itself will tell you the story. So
Mm,
can you do some memorization? You certainly can. But the card will point you in the right direction, will always give you the correct scenario and the correct information. For me, when I read, I will lay the cards and I'll take one quick pass with my eyes, and then the information just starts to roll for me. It just becomes like a
mm,
knowing, the information flows and just rolls out, and that's how I personally read. Neither way
okay.
is right or wrong. It's just my
Yeah.
way.
Your
Yeah.
way, yeah. And I think what I've always enjoyed about your readings, and I've told Randy this, and I'm sure other people who've had experience with Randy, is what I like is that intuitive piece that you bring. You know, I've had card readers, they look at the card and they'll be like, well, this tells me that this is going to happen or has happened. But what I think you do really well is you do that, but also the intuition or that it's almost like a counselor. You're
Yeah.
very informative. You give, like you'll say, if it's a relationship, you won't say, "Oh, you just got out of a bad relationship and a new one's coming." You'll kind of go into detail about why that relationship was bad, or some things you picked up. Where does that just come with years of experience?
It's I think it's part of the gift, the knowing. Because
Mm,
really, some of the things that spirit shows me, there's not a card for that, or it wouldn't be
mm,
in a card.
yeah,
So for you
yeah,
to know the details of a situation, for you to be able to tap into the emotions
yeah,
of a situation or a time period, um, is all done through spirit. I don't control that. I kind of liken it. The other day I was talking in class, I was teaching, and I said the tarot card to me is kind of like a page in a coloring book. There's no color to it. You see what the picture is, you know what the picture is, but my intuition colors the picture and brings
oh,
it to life.
okay,
So that's
yeah,
kind of how I view that.
okay, wow, okay, that makes sense. I love that. I love that. So tell folks who are watching or listening about a tarot deck. So there's major and minor. Just give a little bit about someone who's listening who've never experienced tarot, the difference between the major arcana and the minor arcana.
So there are 78 cards total in a tarot deck. There are meanings for upright and there are meanings for reversed cards. So I always say that it's a 78 card deck, but since you're reading both upright and reversed and they have their own sets of meanings, it's like having a deck with over 100, well, it's 156 cards
Wow,
in
yeah,
my eyes. So
yeah.
there's plenty of information there. There is nothing I don't think that tarot can't touch upon in some way, shape, or form. There are 50, now I'm going to draw a blank, 56 cards that are minors. And the minors to me are are the cards that talk about everything outside of the person themselves. There are cards, they're numbered like 1 through 10, and then they have court cards, which are people cards, very similar to a regular deck of cards.
Hmm.
And so it can talk about situations and scenarios and people outside of the person. Now, the 22 cards that are majors, those to me are intensely about the person that you're reading for. It talks about those cards indicate major life changes and big shifts in who you are and what you believe and how your character shows itself, how you choose to present yourself. So when you start to put those all together, it talks about you as a person and then how the outside world touches you and how you choose to influence that.
Okay, okay. So if you were reading for someone and they had, depending on what spread that you're doing, and they
Mhm.
had majority major arcana, since you said it's about them, that would mean what? Lots of changes. What would that mean?
Absolutely. So if you see a spread and it has a plethora of the majors,
Uh,
it's a big change year for someone. It's a huge change year for somebody. So
okay.
it can be everything from marriage to birth to new relationships to like getting aha moments about yourself. I think there's a lot of that in the majors is where you suddenly come to realize who you are or where you're at in the moment. The cards are kind of like a mirror. They're going to hold themselves up and show you to yourself. And I think as a reader, that's kind of my job is to help you recognize who you are and what's happening and what's going on and to see the ins and outs and how that colors your life and then what choices you have moving forward. As a reader, I never tell anybody what to do.
Yeah.
I allow spirit to show them options and to give them information. And then when they walk away from that reading, they have to choose what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree. People always say want someone to tell them what to do, and they don't understand that spirit's never going to tell us that. You
Right.
you talked about teaching. What's the most difficult part about teaching tarot? Is it possible to teach someone tarot where they can, even if they don't want to become a reader, a professional reader, can they learn enough about tarot to give readings for themselves?
In the class that I teach, absolutely yes. So when I start my tarot class, I do a 10-week beginners intermediates class. And one of the things I always tell them is that if you can read objectively for yourself, you can read for anyone else.
Hmm.
Because I think the hardest thing to do is to read for yourself.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember a time where I wanted to move to Philadelphia. And so I meditated on it and I went to manifest it. And I said to Spirit, I want to move to Philadelphia, but in order for me to do that, you have to do two things for me. You have to find me a place to live without going to look for it. And you have to
Hmm.
find me a job where I don't have to go interview for it.
Wow.
Within 2 days, a friend of mine named Ed called me from Philadelphia and said, I'm so frustrated. What's going on? Well, my roommate tells me that he's moving out next month and I need to find a new roommate.
Wow.
Crap. Okay. All right. So now we got to work on the whole job thing. I hopped online. I saw some jobs. I applied for them. A couple days later, my phone rings early in the morning. It's a lady calling me from Philadelphia for a company. We do a phone interview, and she's like, so can you come in tomorrow and interview? And I said, did you look at the top of my resume? Did you see I live in Des Moines, Iowa? I can't be there tomorrow morning. And she
Yeah.
said, oh, did you mean to apply for this job? And I said, yes. I said, I want to move to Philadelphia. I said, so I'm just like starting that search now. And she said, how would you feel about just doing a phone interview with the hiring manager? Okay, I
Wow.
can do that.
Yeah.
So did the interview. They offered me the job. So I had the place to live. I had the job. Spirit fulfilled his obligation. And I was like, but what if I'm misreading it? what if what if
Right.
I'm wrong? So
Right.
I literally laid a spread of cards and I'm looking at it and I get frustrated because it's hard to read for yourself and stay
Yeah.
objective in the
Yeah.
heat of the
Yeah.
moment. I grabbed another deck of cards, brought it over, laid cards on top of cards, looked
Uh-huh.
at it, and then called a friend who's a reader. And I said, I'm going to
Oh
send
my
you a
goodness.
picture of this. Tell me
Yeah.
what you see. And she was
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? And we laugh about that to this day, about how it can be difficult to read for yourself.
It
So in
is.
class, I teach people how to read for themselves. I teach them to pull a card a day. Just pull one card a day. And with those beginners, what I have them do to kind of help them with their confidence and to show them how spirit does talk to them is I have them pull a card in the morning, but not look at it. So sit
Ah,
at your kitchen table, you shuffle your cards,
yeah.
you pull your card, you put it face down, and you go about your day. And when you get home, you take 2 or 3 minutes and you just write down a few things about your day that either were great moments, or maybe were
Yeah.
teachable moments, or were challenging moments, or you got really frustrated, and then flip the card over and look at it and see how the card played into the day. If you
Hmm.
had seen that card this morning, how would you have changed what happened during the day? Because I want them to learn that spirit does talk to them through the cards. The cards never lie because it's information from spirit, and spirit can't lie. So
Ah.
can you put it together? Can you put A plus B and come up with C?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to try that. I like that. So don't look at the card. So
No?
you're shuffling your card in the morning, you pick a
Yep.
card, keep it face down, and
Mhm.
then at the end of the day, when you come home, write down how your day went in a way. And what
Mhm.
is that card going to tell me? If it matched up, or what's the card doing?
What the card is doing is it's showing you that spirit knows what was going on with your day, knew what was going to come through your day. And so then after they do a couple weeks of that, then I move the exercise to you turn the card over and you look at it and you remember that energy and you take that with you through your day. So when something starts to get a little heated, you know that, okay, the card this morning showed like a lot of frustration with work, or with coworkers. Okay,
Okay.
so before this gets any hotter, the card warned me about it. Let me take a breath and kind of step back. Things like that. All right,
Okay.
you have to make a decision, and maybe the card is very positive about a new job opportunity or a new school, a new education, something like that. Okay, so spirit is talking to me about, that opportunity is presenting itself in a positive light. So you choose to step into it.
Okay.
So yeah.
I'm gonna I'm gonna try that. Do you teach your students to look at the guidebook that comes with the deck? I've heard different stories on that. That you should use your own intuition. You should not look at the guidebook. What's kind of your thoughts on that?
So to tell a student not to look at their guidebook is, you might as well just bang your head on the wall, because they're going to do it.
Yeah, that's
In my
okay.
class, my students build their own tarot book. So every week I give them handouts for the cards that we're studying for that week, with the
Oh,
words that relate to upright and the words that relate to reversed. And there's several lines in there. So as they're looking through other books, or maybe as they're listening to somebody else talk about tarot, or maybe they're doing a reading and something hits them, they've got space to put that information in there for them. So at the end of the week, they've got a notebook that's probably this thick with
ah,
information about cards and spreads and the ethics of tarot. That's a big thing that I think is very important to teach, is that there's an ethical standard that readers need to have when they're reading for people. So
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm gonna try that. I've always looked at tarot. I'm like, how does anybody remember all 78 cards? But I think what you say, if you include or intuition is a part of that, it's not
Mhm.
really about memorizing 78 cards,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's a combination of remembering what pentacles meant or mean, or what
Yes.
cups mean.
Yeah. So a lot of the decks that I use are made by a gentleman by the name of Cairo Marchetti. I love his decks just because they're very expressive and they're rich in color. And I just love them. The other thing I like about them is that how he draws the card really tells the story of the card. So if you get stuck and you can't remember what the card means, you can always look at the card and the card will tell you the story about that.
Oh,
The other thing I teach my students is that for each of the suits, they have their own genre. So cups, of course, are emotional. The wands are about passion and fire. Pentacles are about things of this earth. So money, education, home, health, things of that nature. And swords have to do with the mind. So if you know those four suits, ones, aces, talk about new beginnings. So if you get an ace of cups, say, so a new relationship is going to come along. So that could be a romantic relationship, it could be a work relationship, it could be a mentor relationship. So if you remember, there's lots of ways to remember how the cards roll.
Yeah,
You have to pick the one that does the best for you.
Huh. Okay. Do you think someone, if they're learning, like your students that you just had, is it okay to, or as you're learning, or even, someone like me who is not a reader of tarot, should we stick with a deck for a while? Is it good to mix up, or should we start with the Rider Waite that everybody starts with, or, that's been around the longest? What do you think about, as a beginner developing tarot reader, using different decks, or should we stick with a deck, a
I think when
particular
you're
deck?
first learning, I think it's good to stick with one deck. And to me, this is my opinion, that
Yeah.
deck should be Rider Waite based. There are some decks that the Seven of Wands just shows a picture of 7 wands. The Ten of Swords just shows 10 swords. It's
Yeah.
hard to glean out of that as a beginner student without doing the memorization.
Okay.
From that. I think that once you have mastered a deck that is Rider Waite based, then you can read any deck after that because you
Okay.
have your meanings in your head.
Okay. Did you start with the Rider Waite that had the
I
007? Was that Rider Waite?
That was a Rider Waite deck, yes.
Okay. I was just curious if it was. Well, I love that. You're one of my favorite tarot readers. And again, I feel like you give so much with the counseling and telling a story, and just not all readers do that. How did you? People may know Randy also has his own metaphysical fair, and kind of got into the expo game. He doesn't have enough to do, so he's always trying to find this to do. What people want 2 or 3 things on their plate, and Randy wants like 17 things on their plate.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm shooting for exhaustion. Okay, that's what you do.
That's
I'm
me.
shooting for exhaustion. How can I kill myself?
Uh-huh.
What made you want to get into putting on metaphysical events, fairs, expos? Where'd that thought, that hunger, that from there, what made you want to do that?
I think that for me, what really got me into it is that somebody who worked fairs and expos for years as a reader, you kind of get a feeling for what works and what doesn't work. And there are some amazing show coordinators throughout the Midwest that I have met who do excellent work. But every expo I work, I always think to myself, you know what? I love that, but I wouldn't have done that. And I thought, okay, it's time for me to take what I've learned and what I've experienced and what I've heard from other vendors and bring that into a new being, a new place. And so the other thing that is important to me with expos is I like being a connector. So there is a need. People need Reiki. People need information. People need to speak with those who have crossed over for healing and for peace. People need readings to help get some insight into a situation because sometimes it's just gotten to be too difficult or there's too many fingers in the pie, and it's difficult for them to sort all the details out. So people who show up for expos are looking for answers. looking for something. I want to make sure that I bring in the best that I can find and put those two together and connect those two so that the people who do the work get to do what the spirit has graced them to do, and the people
Mhm.
who need that work done can receive that from somebody who's reliable and ethical
Yeah.
and highly trained.
Has it been what you thought it was going to be when you started out? Is that hunger still there? You still wanting to do it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
When people catch me after expos and talk about amazing readings that they've had or things that they saw or people that they've met or beautiful pieces of art that they've bought, or certain crystals that resonate with them, that's wonderful for me. When I have vendors come to me and say, this was an excellent weekend, the energy was fantastic, everybody was friendly, everybody got along, we had a
Yeah.
great time, that just makes my heart sing. And that's really what
Yeah.
it's all about. How can I help other people get to where they want to be?
Yeah. Where was your first expo at?
My very first expo was the Iowa Metaphysical Fair,
Okay.
at the
Okay.
Iowa State Fairgrounds
Okay.
several years ago.
And
Several.
so, yeah, people who don't know, his expo is in Des Moines. Des Moines,
Mhm.
Iowa is in, when was the first year?
So the first year was 2023.
Three. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it's held in Clive at the Horizons Event Center. It's an amazing location, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they love to work with us, and we like to work with them, and it's a great partnership.
What about expansion? What do you want to do? Do you want to grow or do any more? Because again, you've got to have 17 things on your plate. So yeah.
There are several cities. I'm not sure if several is the right word. I would love to expand Des Moines to have a spring and a fall. Currently, mine is being held in the fall. I would like to look at a spring expo,
Okay.
because I think Des Moines is more than big enough
Yeah.
to handle that.
Yeah.
Um, Shakopee, Minnesota, which is just outside of Minneapolis, has an amazing venue. So I'm working with them. I'm looking at venues in Dubuque and in Cedar Rapids, and I've looked at Sioux Falls. So we'll just see. We'll just see where
Yeah.
spirit
Yeah.
takes me. Yeah,
Yeah.
sitting still is not my forte. So
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like, we'll have talks, phone calls, and it's like, well, I want to do this, or what do you think about that, or I'm going to add this, and I'm just like, I don't know where you get the energy to do all of that. Yeah, I have no idea. Have you ever thought about teaching tarot online? Is that something that's possible? I know you do it in person.
mhm.
Um, is that something that you could do online?
It is done online by other people.
Oh,
I just love like that one-on-one contact. I mean, my classes aren't one student to one teacher,
yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
but I keep my classes usually pretty small, like 8 students, 10 students. This
Okay.
last class, I went way past that, and I don't think I'll do
Yeah,
that again. I just don't feel like when we got to the end and we were learning spreads and people were learning to read for each other, that I could really give it the amount of time and energy
yeah,
in each one that I wanted to. But yeah, I just
yeah.
I just like the energy of in person.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I was just like, sometimes you might run across people in a different city or a different state, like
Mhm.
myself, who would like to learn and, do it online. And so I was just wondering if it's one of those things that you could do um, online.
Yeah,
So
I've read for people through Zoom, and I've read for people over the phone in a one-on-one situation. I just don't know.
teaching.
When I teach, I think I really wanna be with my students,
Yeah,
in the
no.
same space with them, but that's
Yeah.
just me. Who knows? Maybe I'll add one more thing to my plate and
That's right.
change from a
So
plate
what's
to a platter. Yeah.
right, right. Like, oh my gosh. So what's your advice if someone wants to learn to row? What's that first thing you tell someone? Someone's watching this and they're like, huh, I've never thought about that. What would be the first step? Should they get a deck and play around with it before they take a class? Kind of, what do you think is a way to if someone's interested in tarot? And I wanted to ask you before you answer that, is there a difference between tarot and oracle?
Yes. So
Do you use oracle cards?
I keep a couple Oracle decks, believe it or not, in my desk at work.
Oh,
And the young lady who works next to me has got, I don't know, I bet she's probably got 10 or 12 tarot decks, Oracle decks in her desk. When I started this job and we sat down next to each other, my boss said, I think you're really going to like this person. The two of you will click. And I was like, okay, I'll live with that. And then she opened up her desk drawer when we were talking,
oh my
and I saw
gosh.
all the decks, and I was like, I'm home. I'm home. This is where I
What?
belong. Yeah.
Wow.
So to me,
What's the difference if someone's watching? And what in your opinion, what's the
mhm,
difference between tarot and oracle deck?
for me,
Yeah, yeah.
if I just need some reassurance or a little bit of insight, I call it like a mini counseling session. I will grab an Oracle deck because oftentimes Oracle decks lean more toward positivity and support, and
Mm.
you've got this, and spirit loves you, and the angels are beside you, and I'm not making fun of Oracle cards in any way,
Yeah,
shape,
yeah.
but they're very loving and they're more loving and more warm and um,
Mm.
very gracious and kind and supportive. Whereas
Oh,
tarot, there's cards that talk about great success, and there's cards that say things that, like, you're about to get your butt kicked.
yeah. Ah,
Get on your seatbelt because it's about to be a bumpy ride. And
gotcha.
so it tarot shoots from the hip, whereas oracle cards are kind of a little more kind and gracious in their direction.
Oh.
I think that's me.
Yeah, no. So you're saying if you need that kick in the butt, you, and again, I know this isn't for sure, but
Right?
you would say oracle cards may not give you that, what we all need sometime, that little kick in the butt.
May not give you quite the same insight if you have
Yeah,
not really polished up or really worked on your intuition. Because with intuition, I believe that oracle cards can give you lots of information too. They can kind of like light that spark, and then the
yeah,
spirit comes in with that flame and gives you the information. But like at just a beginning stage, or maybe you're just having a tough time, and like, what kind of card do I want to pull? What deck am I going to pull from? If I've got some stuff going on, I'll always reach for my tarot deck first.
oh, okay, okay. So and I know we talk about this, but I'm really curious about this. So if you need that kind of positivity, inspiration. Are you saying you can't get that from a tarot? You can't get
Oh,
that?
oh no, no, I believe that you can. I really
Okay.
do believe that you can. It's just the way that how do I want to put this? When you talked about the books, when you said, like, do you want your students to read the book that comes with the deck? It
Uh-huh.
seems to me that if you read the books that come with oracle cards, they're a little bit softer,
Yeah,
gentler,
I would agree. Yeah,
gracious,
yeah,
whereas
yeah.
tarot can be gracious and kind and supportive and loving, but it also has that other side where it really can attack, like, your shadow side, or talk about your character, or talk about
Okay.
some tough situations that are coming that you have to take a look at. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, I got off topic, but I just
that's
wanted
okay.
to say if somebody wanted to begin to study tarot, or
Mhm.
what would just be a few things you would tell them about some steps if they were interested in getting into tarot?
I think the first thing you would have to do, I would tell them, is to find a deck that where the artwork really talks to you.
Mm,
I can suggest Cairo Marchetti decks, from now until the second coming.
right.
But that may not be the right deck for you.
Yeah.
Some people love to read a plain black and white deck.
Yeah.
Black and white decks kind of like throw my intuition off.
Oh.
Some people like to read round tarot cards. I've tried
Mhm.
it just doesn't work for me. So you've got to
Mm.
find that deck. So I always say, find the largest metaphysical store that you can and go in and look at those decks and
Okay.
find the one where the artwork really talks to you, and that's your beginning step. And then I think from there you kind of have to decide, do I want to play around online? Because there's lots of websites that are out there that are built for tarot and to learn about tarot. You can do it that way. You may choose to get just a couple friends together who are interested with you, and
Yeah.
you, as two or three people, like a little study group,
Yeah.
study the tarot yourself. You can sign up for a class like I have,
Yeah.
and
Right.
do something like that. But just, I think the first thing is just to find the deck that you really resonate with. If you don't
Yeah.
resonate with the deck that you're reading with, learning is difficult at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I've always heard that. So all your years in the spiritual arts, and you've been around a lot of the spiritual arts, like you said, ruins and mediumships and psychics and healers. What
Hmm.
has spirit taught you? What have you, you know, I don't want the steam to come off your head. You don't, just what has spirit taught you over all your time with spirit, from that little boy who the first time he ever saw the cards to today? When you kind of look back, what do you think spirit has taught you, or what does spirit want us to know?
I think that what spirit has taught me is to keep an open mind. I think in the household I grew up in, things were very black and white, and the
Mm.
rules were the rules, and that's all there was to it. And things needed to stay within those boundaries and guidelines. Um, One of the things that spirits taught me, and you've kind of refreshed it over the last couple of years, is you'll hear somebody talk about something, and automatically sometimes my mind will go, "That's the craziest shit I've ever heard. I don't, what are they talking about? Where do they get that?" And then I realized that everything I've seen and I've learned over my years has taught me I don't know everything, and
Yeah,
nothing is impossible.
yeah,
So not to judge things so quickly, and to be more accepting, and to take a few moments to step back and to look and enjoy, what you're seeing, what you're learning, even if it's uncomfortable or
mm,
unusual or seems impossible. um Spirit, that's what spirit deals in, is the
yeah,
unusual and the unique and the impossible. And so
yeah.
just to sit back and enjoy it, and just realize that what we see here when we're on this earth this time around
Right.
is probably less than 1% of what spirit is really capable of.
Yeah, yeah.
And that probably 1% is probably a high number, to be honest. Yeah.
Right, right. What does spirit mean to you? When you say spirit, what does that mean to you?
Um, I a lot of people use the word God, and some
Yeah.
people will say goddess, and some people say divine, and some people say the universe. I just think that spirit is that source,
Mm,
and I think one of the things that has shifted in my thinking over the years, shifting from the word God to the word spirit, is that when we grow up Christian, at least when I did,
mhm.
God had ultimate say. It was going to be that way or no way. And I've learned that spirit works in partnership with you. That there are things that spirit wants you to see and wants you to experience and wants you to learn.
Yeah,
um, and doesn't per se punish you for not learning it or getting it the first time around. Spirit will just bring it around again,
yeah,
in a
yeah,
different way, with a different person, in a different scenario. So to me, spirit is just that all-knowing, loving, caring, supportive. I don't want to regulate it to like a best friend kind of a thing,
yeah,
but
I gotcha.
I don't
Yeah,
feel like spirit's like way up here and we're way down here. I think it's much
yeah,
more a balance in that. Yes.
yeah, yeah. That's really cool. I always tell people that you're my brother from another mother. I didn't want to end before I kind of wanted folks, you tell people how you and I met. Um, you know, I'm trying to think. It was at a metaphysical event, and we were at a fair. But I'll let you tell the story and of how we've met. And I've considered Randy, even though he is a friend and crazy in a good way, crazy. Well, okay,
Kind of.
you don't need it. Yeah, yeah. But I just wanted people to. I always tell him he's a damn fool. I'm trying to get him to get his tarot business called Damn Fool Tarot, but
Yes.
I haven't gotten quite there yet. But just
We're
tell folks
close.
how he's a damn fool, how we met.
So we were both working at Iowa Metaphysical Fair. And I don't remember who had sat with you for a reading, but they said that you were really a phenomenal medium. And it was Sunday morning. It was before the fair had opened. I came over to your table and I said, "Would you read for me before the fair starts?" And you said, "Sure, I'll read for you." So we sat down, and I have to say that it was one of the most profound mediumship moments that I ever had. I had sat with other mediums before and had seen some amazing things, but I had never experienced this type of situation. So you and I were talking, and I forget how we started out. You took a few moments and you took a deep breath, and you said, "I'm looking," and she said, "I see two women standing very close together, like in a mom type kind of a way." I don't know if you said it was like in a mom spot or how that exactly went. And
Mm-hmm.
you said, "I can't get them to separate. So I don't know which one's your mom." So were you raised by your mom and your grandmother, or your mom and your sister? And I said, "No." And you said, "Okay, give me a minute. Don't tell me anything. That's spirit's job." And so you took a few moments, you came back and you said, "I can't get either woman to move out of that space." So were you raised by your mom and her best friend, or your mom and an aunt? And I said, "No." And you said, "All right, give me a second." And you came back and you said, "I can't get them to split up. I can't focus in on just one." Does that make any sense to you whatsoever? Because you weren't getting it. And I said, "It makes perfect sense to me. I'm adopted. Both my biological mom and my adopted mom were in spirit, and neither one would have moved an inch for the other." And I was so amazed because no one had ever, and still has not ever pulled that together, has never been
Mm,
able to do that, to
yeah,
figure that out. And so I had to run back to my table because the fair was starting. But I was impressed, and I sent a couple people over to you that came back also impressed. And then when I started up my Psychic Thursday events, and I needed a strong medium, I reached out to you, and we have done, I don't know how many Psychic Thursday events here in Des Moines together.
yeah,
I'm thinking we've probably done close to 20 weekends worth of shows, and most
yeah.
weekends you do 3 nights in a row. So we've probably done 55 to 60 shows together.
Yeah. And we didn't get to touch on the Psychic Thursday. I know you did that for 7 years, kind of took a little break and kind of started that back up. Just real quick, let folks know, because again, there may be people in Iowa who are watching this or in the area and
Uh-huh.
haven't heard about your Psychic Thursdays and would like to attend. How did you come up with this concept of Psychic Thursdays?
When I lived in Philadelphia, there was a metaphysical store that every Friday night they would bring a guest in. And that guest would either teach on a subject or would do some type of gallery work. So it could be a medium, it could have been a tarot reader, it could be an angel communicator, it could be somebody talking about extraterrestrials, or numerology or anything. And so when I moved back to Des Moines when my mom got ill, I missed those, and there was nothing like that here. So a
Mhm.
good friend of mine, Lenore, who owned Morning Light, her and I kind of hashed it out over about a year. I kept trying to bring it to her store, and she kept saying no. And so she suggested that I try a restaurant in Des Moines called Gilroy's. They have an amazing party room with a beautiful sound system. It's a great layout and amazing food. And so I went there, and they were completely open to me doing gallery work there. I'm bringing in people to do gallery work, and they would put the information cards in their tickets, like when people were paying, at the
Mhm.
restaurant. They would put up posters for us. It's actually been 9 years this coming September that we've been doing those. So
Wow.
I've had mediums and tarot readers and angel communicators and people doing bones and past life readings,
Wow.
and it's been an amazing time. It's been
Yeah.
phenomenal. It's been very educational for people. It's been very enlightening for
Yeah.
people. At the same time, it's also very entertaining.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's great nights. So there's a Facebook page that's called Psychic Thursday Des Moines, and you
Okay.
can see when the shows are coming and where they're at. My Facebook page for Midwest Metaphysical is Midwest Metaphysical Expo, and that's
Okay.
got dates, and you will see who's attending and photographs and descriptions of them. I have my Tarot page, which is under Randy Blackman Tarot, that's on Facebook also.
Okay.
So yeah, there's lots of ways to find me. You don't have to go watch.
He froze.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's awesome. I love the Psychic Thursday. I think it's a brilliant idea. Do you give readings? If someone wanted to reach out and get a reading from you, is that something that they can do?
absolutely. So the easiest way to get a hold of me is probably through Facebook messaging, to be honest. So you
Okay.
can use the Randall Blackman Tarot page, you can use the Psychic Thursday page, you can
Okay.
use the Midwest Metaphysical page.
Okay.
So all of those are ways that you can reach out to me, and we can do phone, we can do Zoom. If you're in the Des
Yeah.
Moines area, we can do face to face. Yeah, I
Okay.
love to read for people. I absolutely love
Yeah.
it.
I would just caution the people watching that if it's after like 7 p.m., like he loves to go to bed early. I don't know if he's a vampire, and I don't know. But just remember, if you're if you're gonna get a reading, I even joke with Randy and say, I'm going to bed tonight at Randy o'clock, okay? And that just means before the sun sets, right? Yeah.
Well, I work a full-time job. I work a part-time job. I do readings. I teach classes. I've got Psychic Thursdays. I've got my Midwest Meta.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
work at expos. And somewhere in there, I've got to clean my apartment, spend time with my granddaughters, grocery shop, you
And
know.
sleep. And
Yes, and
sleep.
somehow
Yeah.
I have to sleep. And so I'm usually up early. So that's why I have a
Yeah.
tendency to crash a little early. But don't
Yeah.
let that
Yeah.
stop you from reaching out. Yeah.
Yeah. Phenomenal reader. I truly, truly would suggest anyone reach out to Randy. You're going to get a phenomenal reading. I want to thank you for being on the first episode of season 2 of the Spirit Speaker KC podcast. I tell people if you're interested in maybe being a reader or vendor at his expo, it's a phenomenal expo. Yet over a couple thousand people at each year of it, and he's looking to expand. So if you're one of those people that would like to be in touch and possibly read or vend or get a reading, please reach out to Randy. Randy, thank you so much. Everyone, you can catch my podcast at my YouTube channel, Spirit Speaker KC, or on Spotify. And I will see you next time.
Thank you. Love ya.
Thanks.